My ex-husband shoved divorce papers at me while I held an ultrasound showing twins because he was late for a tuxedo fitting with the chairman's daughter. 5 years later, he walked into our college reunion as the celebrated chief executive, mocked me as a broke single mother, and asked whether any man had been desperate enough to take me. Then the children ran through the private dining room, called me mom, and looked so much like him that his champagne glass slipped from his hand. He thought the shock was the worst thing waiting for him. It was only the first door opening. You always did mistake pride for value, Nolan Cross said, loud enough for the entire room to hear. Now look at you. No husband. No real career. Probably counting coupons between daycare pickups. A few people laughed because he was powerful, and they wanted him to notice them. I set down my water. You still rent your confidence from richer people? The laughter died. My name is Maren Hale. I work in brand strategy. Raise my twins alone. And have no habit of explaining myself to men who abandoned the right to ask questions. Nolan did not know that the quiet woman in the black dress owned the company holding his biggest construction project by the throat. He stared at me, the smile pulling tight across his face. His ash-gray suit fit perfectly. His womb, there slept and under the chandelier. And his wedding band looked heavy enough to remind him who had paid for everything. Still bitter, he said. Still married for access. I replied. His jaw shifted. Our former class president, Wade, stepped between us with both palms raised. Come on. We are here to celebrate. Nolan ignored him. I heard you live in a condo west of downtown. Modest place. Kids too. Right? Tough life. I reached for my purse. He moved in front of me. What? Leaving already? I barely started. You finished years ago. The private dining room had gone silent. Beyond the glass wall, Chicago glowed under a cold spring rain. Headlights sliding along the river like red threads. Nolan looked around, saw that everyone was watching, and leaned closer. You could have had comfort, he whispered. You chose stubbornness. No, I chose not to kneel. His face darkened. Then the door opened. Mom! The voice belonged to my daughter, Leora. Her twin brother, Pen, came in beside her. One hand wrapped around hers and the other clutching the strap of his little backpack. Their sitter hurried behind them, apologizing because the kids had spotted my name on the event board in the lobby and slipped away from the play area. Leora ran into my arms. Pen stopped beside me and looked up at Nolan. The room changed. Pen had Nolan's narrow gray eyes. Leora had his straight nose and the same small cleft in her chin. Even Wade looked from the children to Nolan and back again. Nolan's glass tipped in his hand. Champagne spilled over his fingers. What is this? He asked. My children. How old are they? I did not answer at once. I brushed rain from Leora's sleeve and took Pen's hand. Nolan's voice cracked. Maren. How old? They started kindergarten this year. He did the math without my help. His face emptied. No, he said. No. You would have told me. You were busy choosing cufflinks? A murmur moved around the table. Nolan reached toward Leora. Pen stepped between them. Do not touch my sister, he said. Nolan froze. I am not going to hurt her. Pen looked at me. Mom. Who is he? I held Nolan's casa. Someone from a life that ended before you were born. Nolan recoiled as if I had struck him. I took the children toward the door. Behind me. He said my name once. Then again, louder. I did not stop until we reached the elevator. He caught up as the doors opened. Breathless, tie loosened. All that polished authority gone. You hid my children from me? I guided the twins inside, then turned around. You threw out their mother before you knew they existed. That does not give you the right. You signed away your marriage before I could unfold the ultrasound. His eyes flicked toward the children. We can fix this. There is no we. I have resources. They could attend the best school in the state. They could live in a house with a yard, travel, Have everything. They have everything that stayed. His mouth tightened. You are punishing them because you hate me. No. I protected them because I knew you. The elevator doors began to close. Nolan put his hand between them. Maren? Listen to me. I looked at his fingers against the steel. Move your hand. I am their father. Biology is not a resume. Hey, let's go. The doors closed on his face. In the parking garage, Leora asked, Was that man mad at you? Yes. Why? Because he learned something he should have known a long time ago. Penn squeezed my hand. I do not like him. You do not have to decide anything tonight. I buckled them into the back seat of the rideshare, sat between them, and watched the rain blur the city. I had spent years making sure Nolan never had reason to search for me. I used my maiden name, kept my life private, and let him believe I had disappeared into the ordinary world he despised. He had no idea how much work it took to become ordinary on purpose. The night he left me, we lived in a cramped apartment near Logan Square. I had come home from a clinic with the ultrasound folded inside a white envelope. I made his favorite dinner, bought a cheap cake, and waited. He arrived close to midnight, dry despite the storm because someone had dropped him at the door. He placed a folder on the kitchen table. Sign. I opened it and saw the divorce petition. Nolan. What is this? A clean break. Why tonight? Because tomorrow I meet Blythe's father. Blythe Whitaker was the only daughter of Harlan Whitaker, founder of Whitaker Development, one of the largest private builders in the Midwest. Nolan had been selling commercial finishes for a regional supplier. Then he met Blythe at a project launch and started wearing shirts I had never bought. I held the ultrasound behind my back. You are leaving me for her? I am leaving poverty. He pointed at the ceiling stain. The old radiator. The dinner cooling between us. This is not a life. It is a waiting room. We built this together. You built nothing. You balance invoices and make casseroles. I felt the edge of the ultrasound cut into my palm. He slid a cashier's check across the table. $20,000? Take it. Sign. And be gone before morning. Blythe's family is sending a car for me. I looked at the check. Then at him. You priced me. I compensated you. For what? For the years you invested in the wrong man? I signed. Then I tore the check in half and dropped it into his glass of water. Congratulations. I said, You finally found your market value. I packed one suitcase. He watched me leave without asking where I would sleep. Outside. Rain soaked through my coat. I stood under the train tracks with one hand on my flat stomach and the other around the suitcase handle. I wanted to scream. Instead, I called a former professor, who helped me find a room above her sister's garage. I did not tell Nolan about the babies. At the time, I believed a man willing to erase me for status might pressure me to erase anything that complicated his new life. Maybe that fear was fair. Maybe it was not. But I was alone, pregnant, and done gambling with his character. I worked through the pregnancy. I handled bookkeeping for small contractors, reviewed vendor agreements, and built financial models at night. One of my clients was a struggling specialty stone importer run by my old classmate, Rafe Mercer. He understood logistics. I understood cash flow. We bought distressed inventory, renegotiated warehouse debt, and won a municipal restoration contract nobody else wanted. That company became Stoneark Materials. I kept my ownership private. Rafe served as chief executive. My shares sat inside a holding company, publicly. I took a normal job at a small advertising agency because routine gave the children stability and anonymity gave us peace. By the time Penn and Leora were old enough to ask why other children had fathers at pickup, Stoneark supplied high-end stone facade systems and custom tile across several states. I owned a controlling interest, but I still drove a used crossover and argued with the twins about putting socks in the laundry basket. Nolan built a different life. Blythe's father promoted him, then placed him in charge of a luxury riverfront development that was supposed to prove he deserved the family name. The project depended on Stoneark's imported limestone panels Nolan had personally promised the board that delivery would remain on schedule. He just did not know whose signature sat behind Stone Arc. The morning after the reunion, I warned the twins' school that a man might approach them. I gave the principal Nolan's photo and asked staff not to release the children to anyone except me or our sitter. 2 afternoons later, his black sedan blocked the pickup lane. He stood by the gate, holding 2 oversized toy boxes. "Pin," he called. "Leora, come see what Dad brought." The children backed into their teacher. He parked, stepped out, and walked straight toward him. "What are you doing?" He turned with a practiced smile. "Meeting my children." "You are frightening them. They will adjust. They are not a merger." His smile fell. "Do not create a scene. You came to an elementary school without permission and called yourself their father. You created it." He lowered his voice. "I hired an investigator because you changed your number. I had no other choice." "You had a choice at the reunion. You could have listened." "I listened. I heard a bitter woman telling me I have no rights. You have no relationship. I can build one. Start by leaving." He glanced toward the school doors. "They deserve more than this." I followed his eyes. The building was modest. The playground fence needed paint, and paper stars covered the classroom windows. This school knows their allergies, their favorite books, and which song calms Leora when she gets overwhelmed. "What do you know?" "I know they are mine." "You know their faces?" "I can give them a better life." "You mean a more expensive one?" He stepped closer. "Do not be stupid. Mauden. I have a home in Lake Forest. Staff. Tutors. Connections. You work at a boutique agency. A court will see which household offers stability." I laughed once. His expression sharpened. "You think this is funny? I think you should tell Blythe before you threaten me with court." His skin went pale. "You have not told her." I said, "That is why you are here alone with toys and a private investigator. You do not want the children. You want the problem contained." "That is not true." "Then call her." He said nothing. I nodded toward his phone. "Put her on speaker. Tell her you found your twins." His hand stayed at his side. "Exactly." He grabbed my arm. I looked down at his fingers. "Let go. Maren. Stop pushing me." The crossing guard started toward us. Nolan released me. I spoke softly. "Come near this school again without written permission. And I file for a protective order. Contact my children directly. And every message goes to my attorney. Threaten custody. And your marriage becomes a public exhibit. You would destroy me." "No. I would document you." He stared at me, breathing hard. Then he threw the toys into his trunk and drove away. That night, after the children were asleep, an unknown number called. A woman said, "This is Blythe Whitaker Cross." "I know. Herr Pause was brief." "Then you know why I am calling." "To ask why your husband has been visiting my children. To tell you to stop using them." I leaned against the kitchen counter. "Using them for what?" "Attention. Money. Access. Pick one." "I have asked him for none of those." "You expect me to believe you stayed silent all these years." Then appeared at his reunion with 2 children who look exactly like him. They came upstairs because their sitter lost sight of them. "Convenient. Your husband's timing has always been convenient." Her voice hardened. "I had you investigated. You are a divorced account manager with a mortgage and no family money. Do not mistake my restraint for weakness. You had me investigated and still missed the important part." "What important part? That I do not want anything you have?" "You want Nolan?" I almost laughed. "I already survived Nolan." She inhaled sharply. Then she said, "Listen carefully. If you damage my family, I will damage yours. Employers change their minds. Schools lose openings. Banks review loans." I opened the recording app on my tablet and placed the phone beside it. "Keep talking." "Is that a threat?" "No. It is an invitation to be specific." Silence. I said, "You called my home?" "Insulted my children. And implied you can interfere with my job, their school, and my mortgage." You should decide whether pride is worth creating evidence. Her tone dropped. You think a recording scares me? I think shareholders dislike coercion. She hung up. I stood in the dark kitchen. Watching the twins' nightlight spill blew across the hall. Nolan had brought Blythe into our lives, and Blythe had confirmed what I needed to know. They were not looking for a family solution. They were looking for leverage. Be honest, would you have trusted a man who found his children only after finding my address? The next morning, Rafe called. Whitaker Development is pressing us to release the riverfront shipment before their escrow clears. Who approved that? Nolan's office sent a side letter. It claims the balance can follow after installation. That violates the supply agreement. I know. Our compliance team flagged it. Freeze the shipment. Rafe went quiet. Because of the contract breach or because of him? Because of the breach. The fact that it is him only means I will not overlook it. That delay could stop the project. Then they should fund the escrow. And if they do, we release the materials. Business stays business. Rafe exhaled. Good. I needed to hear you say that. I also asked our outside counsel, Tamsin Reed, to prepare a paternity and custody strategy. She did not promise miracles. She explained that Nolan could petition to establish paternity and seek parenting time, and no private paper could simply erase his parental rights, but she could seek sole legal and physical custody, a no-contact order while the threats were reviewed, and a court-approved agreement limiting any future contact. Do not bluff. Tamsin told me, save every message. Report the school incident. Keep the children out of the fight. That last part matters most. It should. Blythe called again that afternoon. This time Nolan was with her. We want a DNA test, she said. Nolan cut in. Blythe. Let me handle this. No. You handled enough. I sat at my desk in the agency's open office and lowered my voice. I will agree. Both of them went silent. Blythe recovered first. Good. At a neutral accredited lab, with chain of custody. And both sides received the report. Fine. My attorney will also send a proposed custody stipulation. Sole legal and physical custody to me. No direct contact with the children, unless I approve it or a court orders otherwise. No school visits. No public statements identifying them. No harassment through employers or third parties. Nolan said, I will not sign away my kids. You cannot sign away parenthood in a conference room. You can sign an enforceable agreement, recognizing that strangers do not get unsupervised access to frightened children. I am not a stranger. Name Penn's pediatrician. He said nothing. Name Leora's middle name. Silence again. Blythe snapped. He will sign. Nolan turned on her. Do not speak for me. I am cleaning up your lie. I ended the call before their argument finished. The lab appointment took place in a medical office near Northwestern Memorial. Tamsin attended with me. Blythe arrived in a cream suit and dark glasses. Nolan looked as though he had not slept. Samples were collected under supervision. The twins did not attend the results meeting. I refused to let adults turn them into evidence with shoes on. When the sealed report arrived, Blythe tore it open. Her eyes moved across the page. Then she slapped Nolan. The sound cracked through the room. You told me there were no children? I did not know. You knew you left a wife? She never told me she was pregnant. Blythe threw the report against his chest. Because you threw her out? Nolan looked at me. Maren? I did not know. You made sure I could not tell you safely. That is not the same thing. It was enough. He pressed both hands to the table. They are mine. Tamsin slid the proposed stipulation forward. The report establishes biological paternity. This document addresses conduct, while the custody petition is pending. Nolan looked at the pages. No unsupervised contact. No school access. No communication except through counsel. Correct. Tamsin said. This makes me a criminal. No. I said, your behavior made you a risk. Blythe pointed at the signature line. Sign it. He turned to her. You want me to disappear from their lives? I want this contained. For the first time, Nolan seemed to understand that Blythe saw the children exactly as he had once seen me. As an obstacle between him and power, he looked at me. If I sign, will you ever let me see them? Not while you are using them to save yourself. I am their father. You became interested when they entered a room full of witnesses? His face twisted. You are cruel. No. I am late to being careful. Blythe shoved a pen into his hand. Sign? Or explain everything to my father today. Nolan signed. Tamsin gathered the papers. The stipulation would still need court approval, but it gave us immediate leverage and documented his consent. Blythe reached into her bag, took out a check, and pushed it toward me. For your silence? I did not touch it. She named an amount large enough to pay off my condo. I slid it back. Keep it. Legal fees are coming. Her eyes narrowed. You think you won? I think my children are protected. You are still an employee at a tiny agency, and you are still married to a man you do not trust. I left before she could answer. By the time I reached the sidewalk, Rafe had sent a message. Whitaker Development had failed to fund the required escrow by the deadline. Stoneark's compliance team had issued a formal suspension. Construction crews at the riverfront site would run out of approved facade panels by the end of the week. Nolan called before I reached my car. You did this? I enforced your contract. You control Stoneark? I smiled at the traffic moving along Michigan Avenue. Now you are asking the right question. His breathing changed. Mauden, please tell me you do not control Stoneark. I own the controlling interest. No. Yes. You work at an ad agency? I also own a materials company. You lied. You never asked? You announced. He started swearing. I held the phone away until he stopped. The escrow was not funded. I said, your office tried to bypass the agreement. Stoneark froze delivery. Fix the breach. You know Whitaker's project cannot absorb a delay. Then you should not have gambled the schedule. This is revenge. No. Revenge would be inventing a breach. You handed me a real one. He lowered his voice. What do you want? Nothing from you? Everyone wants something. That belief is why you keep losing people. I ended the call. The retaliation came fast. My agency director called me into a glass conference room the next morning. He looked embarrassed. Whitaker Development is withdrawing its sponsorship package. He said, they are also pressuring 2 partner firms to walk. Because of me? He did not answer. I took off my employee badge and placed it on the table. You do not have to resign. He said, you were going to fire me? I was going to ask whether there was another solution. There is. Do not let them destroy the staff to reach 1 employee. He rubbed his forehead. Mauden, what are you involved in? A family dispute with a procurement department attached. I packed my desk into 1 cardboard box. In the lobby, Blythe called, enjoy unemployment. I tucked the phone between my shoulder and ear. You interfered with my employer? I warned you. You also left a voicemail? She went quiet. I continued. My attorney will preserve it with the first call. The investigators report. The school incident. And the sponsorship threat. You cannot prove I caused anything. Your vice president emailed my boss from a Whitaker address and named me. Silence. I stepped outside. A black car waited at the curb. Sent by Rafe. Blythe said, what are you? The woman you did not research well enough. I hung up and got into the car. Stoneark's headquarters occupied the upper floors of a converted warehouse in the Fulton Market District. I entered through the main lobby carrying my cardboard box. Employees who knew me only from quarterly video calls stood a little straighter as I passed. Rafe met me outside the boardroom. You look underdressed for a corporate execution? He said. I was fired this morning. Congratulations on the promotion. Inside, Nolan waited with 2 Whitaker attorneys and the company's chief financial officer. His face changed when I walked to the head of the table. He stood. Why is she here? Rafe pulled out my chair. Because she chairs Stoneark's board. Nolan stared at me. The chief financial officer looked from him to me. You know each other? Nolan sat down slowly. She's my ex-wife. I placed the cardboard box beside my chair. One of your affiliates had me fired this morning. I said, so I had time. One attorney began, we are here to resolve the shipment hold, not discuss personal allegations. Agreed. I said, fund the escrow. Withdraw the unauthorized side letter. Certify that no Whitaker employee pressured Stoneark staff to falsify delivery status. And provide the missing insurance documents. Nolan leaned forward. We can fund part now and the rest after installation. No. You know the panels are custom. You know we cannot replace them. Yes. You are abusing market power. Rafe slid a copy of the contract across the table. Your client requested release without satisfying the payment condition. Stoneark declined. That is not abuse. The chief financial officer turned to Nolan. You told the board escrow was complete. Nolan looked at him. It was being processed. You certified it. I expected the wire. I watched the room pivot away from me and toward him. The attorney asked, did you sign the side letter personally? Nolan's mouth tightened. The chief financial officer repeated, did you? Yes. That one word did more damage than any speech I could have made. The meeting ended without a deal. Whitaker could fund the escrow and cure the breach. But by then the board had questions about Nolan's certification, his side letter, and why a sponsorship withdrawal had been used to target the chair of a critical supplier. Harlan Whitaker called an emergency review. 2 days later, Whitaker funded the account. Stoneark released the shipment because the contract required it. I did not sabotage the project. I did not need to. The internal review uncovered Nolan's unauthorized guarantee, the false certification, and several vendor favors routed through a consultant tied to one of his friends. He had not stolen enough to become a criminal headline, but he had lied enough to become expendable. Harlan removed him as chief executive. Blythe filed for divorce. Nolan called me from a hotel. This is your fault? No. You pulled the thread. You wore the loose suit. I lost everything. You lost what belonged to other people. He started crying. I listened for a few seconds. Then said, do not call this number again. That night, it came to my condo. Rain hammered the windows. The twins were asleep. Nolan stood outside the building entrance soaked through. Pressing the intercom again and again, I answered without buzzing him in. Marin, please, leave. I have nowhere to go. Call a hotel. My cards are frozen. Call a friend. I gave up everyone for Blythe. That was your decision? I made a mistake. You made a system? He leaned close to the camera. His hair was plastered to his forehead, and his expensive coat sagged with water. Let me see the children? No. I signed that paper under pressure. Then speak to your attorney. I can change. Change somewhere else? He slapped the metal frame beside the intercom. You ruined my job, my marriage, my name. You lied to your board, your wife, your supplier, and your family. You are enjoying this? I am protecting my home. He lowered his voice. You think you are better than me because you have money now? No. I think I am safer because I stopped believing you. His face twisted. Then the pleading vanished. I will go public. He said, I will say you hid my children, turned them against me, and used your company to punish me. People love a father who wants his kids. I held up my phone to the camera. I recorded the school threat. Blythe's calls. Your demand for custody. Your signed stipulation. And this conversation. He went still. I also have the divorce papers. I said, and the clinic envelope you never let me open? You would humiliate me. You came to my door with a threat. Mauden, one more call. One more visit. One message sent through anyone else. And Tamsin files everything needed for the protective order. He looked past the camera as if he could see the life inside. The warm kitchen. The children sleeping. The home he had once traded for an invitation to a richer one. I loved you, he said. Not enough to recognize me as a person. Can we start over? No. The word was quiet. It ended him more completely than anger could have. He stepped away from the entrance. I watched him cross the sidewalk in the rain. Shoulders bent, then disappear beyond the camera. The court later approved the custody agreement with additional protections. Nolan received no unsupervised contact and could communicate only through counsel. He did not challenge it. By then, he had left Chicago and taken a sales job in another state. I never told the children he had been destroyed. Children do not need a parent's victory speech. They need safety, truth, and room to form their own thoughts. Months later, I took Penn and Leora to a park near the lake. They raced along the path, came back breathless, and collapsed beside me on a bench. I showed them a photo of Nolan from college. Penn recognized him first. The man from school? Yes. Leora leaned against my arm. Is he our dad? He is your biological father. Why did he leave? He chose another life before he knew about you. Later, when he found out, he tried to come in too fast and in the wrong way. Penn frowned. Did he hurt you? Yes. Do we have to love him? No. You never have to pretend a feeling, but you also do not have to carry my anger. Leora studied the photo. Will he come back? Not unless it is safe and you want to know him when you are older. Penn handed the phone back. I do not want him now. That is allowed? Leora asked. Are we still a whole family? I pulled them both close. We were whole before he found us. They accepted that answer with the clean certainty children sometimes have when adults finally stop making truth complicated. Stoneark continued growing. I stepped back from daily operations, kept my board roll, and spent more afternoons at school pickup. I did not buy a mansion. I paid off the condo, set up trusts for the twins, and replaced the crossover only after the transmission died in a grocery store parking lot. People who heard pieces of the story called What Happened revenge. It did not feel like revenge. Revenge would have required Nolan to remain at the center of my life. He was not. He became a closed file, a legal boundary, a face the children could ask about without fear. The real victory was quieter. It was Penn reading at the kitchen island while Leora sang the wrong lyrics to a cartoon theme song. It was rain against the windows without a suitcase by the door. It was knowing nobody could buy our silence, threaten our home, or make me doubt the value of the life I had built. I did not forgive Nolan, and I did not rescue him. I gave my children the truth without handing them my hatred. And I closed the door when he returned only because he had lost the richer house. So tell me, was I right to close that door forever? Or should I have let him try to become their father?